When I said Whoopi Goldberg was the help, let me tell you what I meant by that. To my little sisters saying, you just gotta do it, let me school you. If they're not paying you, baby, that's called slavery. When you called me with the morning show on the phone, I said to you, Steve, my family is suffering behind this. And y'all know I did nothing wrong.
It appears that Monique has finally been vindicated after almost 15 years. She publicly called out Oprah Winfrey, accusing her of blackballing her. However, it is important to remember that Monique didn't just expose Oprah. She also called out other industry figures who sided with Oprah and threw her under the bus, including Whoopi Goldberg and Steve Harvey. Recently, Taraji P. Henson revealed that she almost walked away from the new overproduced adaptation of The Color Purple due to the overwhelming pressure. In light of this, it can be argued that Monique deserves an apology. Back in 2009, Monique said the same things that Rosie is now saying, yet she was labeled as bitter and angry. Despite facing criticism from her industry peers, Monique refused to be silenced. She exposed Harvey for contributing to the malicious narrative about her being difficult, while he himself acted as Oprah's lapdog, prioritizing his own interests over the community. So, what exactly did Monique say? And does this situation with a Razzie probe confirm that her motives were right all along? Let's delve into it.
But none of y'all in real time, was strong enough to go publicly and say, we can't throw our sister under the bus.
Oprah Winfrey is currently facing significant backlash due to Taraji P. Henson's revelation that she walked away from a conference where they attempted to offer her a low salary. The new movie, The Color Purple, is a collaborative effort between Oprah, Steven Spielberg, Scott Sanderson, and Quincy Jones. Although Oprah is not directly responsible for paying the actors, given her influence, one would expect her to use it to help Henson negotiate a higher salary. However, this is not the main issue at hand. This situation might not have escalated to this extent if it were the first time Oprah received such criticism. However, nearly 15 years ago, Monique publicly exposed Oprah for attempting to underpay her, resulting in her being blacklisted in the industry. This controversy began in 2009 when Monique faced pressure from Oprah, Tyler Perry, and Lee Daniels. Despite this, Monique's exceptional performance garnered widespread acclaim, and she ultimately won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. Later, The Hollywood Reporter revealed that Daniels confessed to the fact that she was facing professional exclusion. Curious about the reason behind her blackballing, Daniels simply responded, "Because you didn't play the game." However, when Monique pressed Daniels for an explanation, he found himself at a loss for words. Nevertheless, it is not difficult to surmise the underlying message here. It appears that they were essentially conveying that all black entertainers must unquestioningly idolize Watson and refrain from expressing any criticism towards her. Failure to comply would result in their attempts to silence Monique. Furthermore, she also mentioned both Whoopi Goldberg and Steve Hart, insinuating that they were mere puppets when it came to supporting Watson. Monique recounted an incident on a plane where she had fulfilled all her contractual obligations for the film, Precious, but Orion Tyler demanded additional unpaid work from her in a condescending manner. Monique firmly asserted that she should have stood her ground in that situation. Monique's actions of entering an open door without any charge raised questions about whether it was within the scope of her job responsibilities. If this had been a violation of her employment agreement, the studio would have taken legal action against her. However, no such lawsuit was filed, indicating that Monique was aware of her job duties and fulfilled them accordingly. Nevertheless, it is important to note that she should not have exceeded her role by instructing others on how to perform their tasks.
And I said, if you had called me, I could have schooled you on what was expected.
And when we did have that conversation, and what I said to you, my sweet sister, I said, Whoopi, at what point do we stop saying the next time? Because what was expected,
Wait,
but I want to answer it though.
Yeah.
Monique's actions of entering an open door without any charge raised questions about whether it was within the scope of her job responsibilities. If this had been a violation of her employment agreement, the studio would have taken legal action against her. However, no such lawsuit was filed, indicating that Monique was aware of her job duties and fulfilled them accordingly. Nevertheless, it is important to note that she should not have exceeded her role by instructing others on how to perform their tasks. If they are not compensating you, it is important for me to educate you on this matter. The issue of difficult slavery goes beyond just the ungratefulness displayed by those who attempted to take advantage of you. Not only did Oprah's other close friend, Steve Harvey, privately agree with her, but then publicly criticized her, burning bridges in the process. Now, Oprah is facing criticism for allegedly causing harm to several individuals, including Steve Harvey. One example is when the late Running Man accused Steve Pressfield of undermining his role in Ocean's 11 and attempting to convince the studio to replace him. This incident adds to the list of people Steve betrayed, and he was publicly called out for his cowardice. Steve then invited me onto his show to clarify matters and attempted to put Oprah in a difficult position, just as he did with Monique. However, Monique did not allow Steve to manipulate the narrative and confronted him about his foolishness.
We got labeled as difficult because I said one word, and that was no. Now, I said no to some very powerful people. I said no to Oprah Winfrey. I said no to Tyler Perry. I said no to Lee Daniels. And I said no to Lionsgate. And when I heard you go on the air and you said, my sister done burnt too many bridges, and there's nothing I can do for her now. Steve, do you know how hurt I was? What I would have appreciated from my brother was had you picked up the phone before you went on the air and said, Monique, you've burned too many bridges and there's nothing I can do. See, I would have appreciated had my brother called me up and said, baby, let's talk. Because you doing that was a part of me being difficult.
But not before that, though.
Yes, baby.
Monique's fans are demanding a sincere apology, while Woody and Steve seem to have very few people supporting them. One fan pointed out that Steve Harvey's money game comment essentially confirmed everything Monique had said about him. It's worth mentioning that Steve Harvey, the comedian, failed to be funny. Another person noted that even after 6 years, this issue remains just as relevant today. Taraji P. Henson bravely spoke out about the pay disparity for Black actresses and received full support, with someone there to comfort her. On the other hand, Monique was blatantly told to keep quiet and not worry about those who come after her. Monique has always been straightforward about her feelings, just like how you feel about the MCU trying to spumoni. If you believe that Oprah and Tyler Perry owe Monique an apology, please comment below and then watch the next video.